All eyes will be on Finance Minister Enoch on Wednesday when he delivers his maiden budget speech to discuss what could lie ahead for South Africa in the year 2022. Let's speak to economist Lumgile Mondi. Lumgile, thank you so much for your time. I want to focus on tax issues, starting off with personal tax. What changes or adjustments could we see, and how could inflation affect what the minister says?
Unfortunately, like the rest of the world, most of the drivers of the cost have been on the production side due to the lockdown of economies across the world. So the drivers of inflation is because of a shortage that has pushed price up. So unlike historically in South Africa, where most of the inflation was driven by high demand by consumers, in this case, it's because of shortage. So therefore, the Reserve Bank has acted on that. And we expect more hikes coming in the near future. However, if you come back then to the individual who have been paying taxes and carrying the state over many, many years, the rising costs have impacted tremendously in their pockets. Therefore, I'll be shocked if the Minister of Finance decides to increase personal income taxes. That's because we've seen a recovery in the commodity market in the current fiscal year, particularly platinum-based metals. So we expect that the South African Revenue Services will overshoot its target, and therefore in that process have more money available for the Minister of Finance to spend rather than rely on increasing taxes, which in this current environment will really be pushing the economy deep into difficulties given the position of the consumers.
What about corporate income tax, Lumgile? There was a reduction promised here, but of course that was a different finance minister. Can we expect to see anything different, especially given that the State of the Nation address given by President Ramaphosa was very pro-business?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is very clear to us in South Africa that the holding institution that is functioning it is business. And we expect business as the only institution that is functioning to be able to carry the economy forward as we work very, very hard to fix the South African state, because the state is in a chaos, as the president has reiterated that he's about to change the security cluster leadership. But more importantly, we're unable to use the money effectively as government to reach places we're supposed to go. So in an environment like that, where there's chaos in the capabilities of government, you like to protect and encourage those institutions that are functioning, that will create employment, that will create more wealth for the shareholders, but for society at large. And then we're able to tax them to ensure that as we fix the state, the spending over time becomes more easier to effectively deploy, and in the process change many people's lives. So no, I think it would be a huge mistake if Minister Kodongwana had to increase taxes both at personal level but also at corporate level.
But will he decrease the corporate income tax?
I think he'll keep it to where it is, I think around 27%. But more importantly also, I know that the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition is driving an agenda of localization, of bringing back manufacturing, but also even the agreement with business is around South Africa playing a pivotal role in the African continental free trade area. In that process, huge investment infrastructure. That will then mean that the government, together with the Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, the incentive package is going to be needed. So I'm expecting a huge incentive package for localization, but also to support those economic processing zones, which are very critical for us to attract more domestic and foreign investors to locate there, so that we can be able to create more wealth and in the process create jobs. But the job creation is not going to be easy. If we can create more wealth, be able to collect more taxes, and really get the state having more money that it can deploy on education, housing, and health, which are critical at the moment, given that infrastructure is falling apart.
The minister is going to have to balance collecting revenue but also helping the economy to grow. So how do we expect him to navigate things like excise tax, where there's been cries from especially the alcohol industry to provide some relief, withholding tax, for example, where he's going to need to balance collecting revenue and attracting foreign investment?
In fact, that one really, the National Command Council made a huge mistake. Remember that the restrictions impacted very much on our domestic industry. So a lot of our alcohol industry as well as a tobacco industry found itself basically because they were not allowed to produce and sell. And there was a huge influx of illegal goods. And in the process, even after when they've started to open up a bit, we still have got a flood of those products in our market due to failing policing, which is hurting domestic tax revenues. So yes, I'm expecting him to increase more on the sin taxes, but at the same time, we're losing so much revenue because a lot of the sin products are coming here illegally and are coming there with the government allowing it due to the porous borders and corrupt state officials who have encouraged and allowed parallel goods to come into our country without taking necessary action. So it's a tough one. I think the revenue there has been declining. We saw during the lockdown how Edward Kisweta was complaining that the revenue from excise duties had dropped tremendously due to the lockdown. So even though there's been a recovery, but I think until we deal decisively with parallel goods and illegal goods, South Africa is going to have a huge leakage on that. As far as withholding tax is concerned, we are expecting to keep everything the same. I think we need to get a buy-in to people believing and hoping that South Africa is not on a downward slide, that we can rescue it and make it a functioning democracy, make it a winning nation again. But that requires all of us working together and us understanding where our strengths are. And our strengths are on the private household as well as corporate, very little strength on the state side and capabilities.
Lumkile, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Economist Lumkile Mondi.